Hey, good to have you back. So we're talking about process, right? Process. The way you get from point A to B, the way you make product A from start to finish. So I mentioned I look at myself as God building a luxury vehicle because I'm one of a kind. So are you one of a kind? Which then means your process or the pathway you take is different. And I'd like us to think about Esther. I alluded to her in the previous video a little bit. Now in Esther chapter 2, we meet this young girl who has gone into the competition. She's in the palace. And the thing that struck me is too often we look at the prize and not the process. And the story of Esther talks about process. So when she went into the palace, right, it was counter everything she knew in terms of her culture. Counter everything. And when she went in, she was critically told by Mordecai, do not reveal who you are. In fact, verse 10 says, Esther had not revealed her people or family, for Mordecai had charged her not to reveal it. And every day Mordecai paced in front of the court of the women's quarters to learn of Esther's welfare and what was happening to her. And these women were in a process, right? They were in a 12-month process before they even got to see the king. Not before they became queen. Before they got to compete for the prize to be with the king. And the prize was a night with the king. Now remember, she's a Jewish girl. She's raised to live in her life in a certain way. And now she's thrown into a harem of God knows how many women. And they are all preparing. All preparing. So there's no rigging in this system. The person who makes the decision is King Artaxerxes. Ahasuerus. That name. Anyway. So the king is the one who makes the decision. However, and this is what helped Esther, within the harem, the men and the leader of the harem, the eunuch in charge of the harem, knew what the king preferred. So, as each woman was being prepared, there was 6 months of preparation with oils of myrrh and 6 months of perfumes and preparation for beautification. 12 months. And then when each one was prepared, she would go into the king and she would be given whatever she wanted. And she would go in the evening and she'd come out in the morning. And when you come out in the morning, if he's not pleased with you, you don't go back to where you came from. You go to another side of the palace. Because in those days, kings had harems. They had multiple women they could be with. That doesn't condone anything in scripture, so don't misquote me, right? The place I like is chapter 2, verse 15, which says, when the time came for Esther to go into the king, she requested nothing but what Haggai, the king's eunuch, the custodian of the women, advised. Remember, she was pulled out of what she knew, as in her world was shaken. She was sent into a 12-month preparation process. And then when she was going, she could pick anything she wanted, but she spoke to the one man who knew the desires of the king and asked him, what do I take? All right? Just think about that for a moment. Has your life been shaken like Esther's was? Does it feel like you've been swiped to the golf club? Which how many times I feel that God has decided, you know that expression of he pulled the rug out from under my feet? Sometimes that doesn't feel like the right expression. You know, when you pull the rug, it's like pulling the carpet out from somebody. Of course, that person will fall, But, okay, my mind sees picture, so I see it like a cartoon when someone picks a golf club. You know that ball, and then you swipe it. And you see it go in the air and travel for a long distance, and then it lands somewhere. Sometimes that's what I feel like God has done, because he's taken me down a path I don't want to go. And not because I'm a disobedient child, but the path is so hard. And I can imagine Esther, the first swipe was the death of her parents in captivity. The second swipe is to be sent into a place which is counter everything you've been raised. But I like to believe that in that place of being outside what she was used to, because of her training, she got to spend time with God. She got to clarify who she was. She stabilized in her faith. She did not weaken. And then it comes to Haggai, and Haggai says, this is what the king likes, and that's all she does. The process is a place of learning. Number one, learning about who you are, right? Number two, learning about what you think you can do and cannot do. Who you are in terms of, I'm a daughter of God, I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm hot-tempered, I am whatever, I'm wonderfully calm, I am artsy, I'm craftsy, right? And then figuring out what you will or will not do. And it's also a place of learning to obey. Think about how she had 7 maids. She was given maids to take care of her. She'd always taken care of herself. It's a place of reworking your mind, because very often the mindset I have today will be a hindrance from my life in 10 years if it doesn't shift with my experiences. So that process is a place of discovering yourself as you are now, discovering the things that will stop you, the things you won't do, learning how to expand your mind, and getting help from others. She was in a place where she couldn't even pour her own bath. It had to be done for her. And she was in a place where she could choose what she thought would be good for the king, but there was somebody who could tell her what was good. So you can imagine if she was fighting the process, if she was just whining and saying, I want to be queen, I want to be queen. And one of the things that is so destructive in our generation is the decree and declare philosophy. If you decree and declare and then don't put in the work to transform by the renewing of your mind, because I could be decreeing wealth, but I have a poverty mentality. It doesn't matter how much I decree and declare, unless my mind is renewed to the abundance mindset. I can decree and declare until I'm blue in the face. It will not happen. That is what process is for, okay? And process is not static. If I learn one thing and something else comes up, I must rise to learn the next and the next and the next. And for me, that is what kept holding me back. It still does sometimes. When I look at what God has promised and where I'm at, and I get upset because it doesn't look like it's any closer than it was. There are promises I've been holding on to for 3-4 years. Yeah, not days, years. And many times when I get really upset with God, He reminds me, your mind, too small. And when I look back at what my brother said, the process is the destination. Unless I become the vessel that can hold the fullness of what is coming to me, I cannot receive it. So my question to you, just based on these few thoughts, when your life was upended, when you were sent into the season of preparation, did you notice the help that came your way? And did you make use of that help? Because by knowing who you are, where you are, seeing the help, receiving the help, and making use of the help, you become ready to take the next step. Are you ready? Let's continue this conversation. Always remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notifications button. See you later.